Welcome to Behind the Mic with Kirkus Reviews, where the subjects are audiobooks and the actors who narrate them. I'm Jo Reed, and with me, contributor Leslie Fine. Hello, Leslie.
Hello, Jo. How are you today?
I'm very well. Thank you for asking, and how are you?
Doing great. Thank you. I'm excited to talk about some books today.
Now, I know which ones you are, so please share.
So we have 3 different novels this time around. We start off with The Burning Side by Sarah Damoff, and that's read by Stacy Gonzalez, Timothy Andrés Pabon, and Jackie Sanders. Then we have The Things We Never Say by Elizabeth Strout. That one's read by Robert Petkoff. And then third is American Fantasy by Emma Straub, and it's read by Marin Ireland.
I've listened to all of them, and it's quite a week. So why don't we begin with The Burning Side?
Absolutely. So this is a great one. We have 3 different, very, very skillful narrators here with The Burning Side. And it's essentially, I suppose, at its heart, a family story. You know, it's a story of a married couple and the wife's parents, and then, all of these other characters sort of around the periphery. But there's just so many layers and there's so much going on. And I think it's a great opportunity to listen to 3 really strong narrators. We get the points of view of 3 different characters.
I have to say, Jackie Sanders was the standout for me.
Me too. Oh my goodness, that's so funny. Now, what did you find distinctive about her?
She sounded like a mom.
She did, like the ultimate mom.
Yes, completely. And I struggled a little more with Stacy Gonzalez's very emotional approach to April, whereas Pabon's performance was so restrained. It was hard to be interested.
I completely agree with you. Gonzalez was a little over the top at times, her voice kind of quaking and this and that, whereas, and she plays April. And then Pabon is her husband, plays the role of her husband, Leo. And he's, especially compared to her, he's very measured and calm and restrained. And then you have Jackie Sanders as April's mom as like, she's every mom. She really is.
Yeah.
She's so warm and calm and, kind of this soothing influence to everyone.
And multidimensional too.
Yes. Oh my goodness. When you kind of see her story, like she gets her own story developed as well as the story of a mom, concerned about her daughter and son-in-law. She does a great job, I think, in that part. But I do feel the 3 of them work together well to make this a pretty interesting listen.
I think for me, at times, the writing felt so heightened that it actually pulled me out of the emotional reality instead of drawing me into it. I mean, there were moments I would just roll my eyes and say, oh, God, really?
Especially with April.
Yes, yes. I mean, it just felt overwritten to me. I don't know, did that work for you, or were there moments you felt the prose was just reaching a little too hard?
I felt, yes, I felt reaching too hard, especially for me. It came in the form of, I felt like there were moments where I thought, okay, I've heard this before. We've already been over this. Like,
Exactly,
can we
exactly.
move along? Like, I got a little impatient sometimes. I definitely.
But I do have to say, although the style wasn't really always to my taste, I really stayed invested in the characters. And I was curious to see what was going to happen to them.
That's what kept me going too. I wanted to know, how is this going to work? How is it going to all unfold? I really did want to know. And I just had to stick with it to find out what happened to them. So I did find that I really cared enough about the characters to continue the ride.
Exactly. Well, you have an excerpt.
Yes, we have a clip from an early meeting before April and Leo are married. This is kind of their meet cute, so to speak. And this will definitely give you a sense of Stacy Gonzalez's emotional investment in portraying April. You'll definitely get a sense of that when you hear her voice and how she delivers this moment when she first meets Leo.
This is The Burning Side by Sarah Damoff. It's read by Timothy Andrés Pabon, Jackie Sanders, and we'll be hearing from Stacy Gonzalez.
There a fire or something? I startle at the deep voice. I turn to see a tall guy in corduroy pants. What? I've just never seen a student run so fast toward summer school. My cheeks warm. I'm a tutor, actually. I hike up my backpack, wishing I hadn't worn braids. A late tutor, I say. Ah. He transfers a binder from one arm to the other. I'm Leo. He extends his hand. A late teacher. In-service has just started for the new school year. I chuckle and shake his hand. April. He releases my hand and opens the school door, nodding for me to go ahead. I walk into the familiar blast of cool air. Behind us, the door closes and mutes the marching band. The hallway is dark after the bright eastern sun, and I glance back. With polite nods, the teacher and I turn, and we go our separate ways.
I think Stacy did a much better job with a younger April than with an older April.
Oh, that's interesting.
Because that kind of flustery, just out of school, trying to find her way, voice seemed more suited to that than when she was a mother of two.
That's really interesting to think about. Maybe that's part of why that kind of had a little, kind of didn't quite fit as well for me as the present day April, because the audiobook does jump around in time, like this is an early moment, then we come to the present day, in the aftermath of the house fire that's alluded to in the title here. And then we go back and forth with, a variety of different characters. That's really true. The younger April, that voice does suit the younger April more so than the one who has, been married for years and is raising two children, and she, especially knowing her mom character,
Yeah.
you would think she would be a little bit more mature in her delivery. That's interesting. That's a really good point.
Exactly, especially given her mom. But again, as we both said, we stayed invested in the characters.
Absolutely. And the story. I thought it was really interesting, the different stories that were going on and how you learn about the different characters. I really did. I stayed invested all the way through.
As did I. And now we're moving to The Things We Never Say by Elizabeth Strout, read by Robert Petkoff.
Oh, yes. So here we have an Earphones winner, because Robert Petkoff does, I think, a great job in this performance. I just think he does such a good job narrating and telling the story of Artie, this high school history teacher. And, there's some really heavy topics at work here, and I just think he does a great job performing the story.
I think if he isn't nominated for an Audio Award, I would be shocked. I really would be shocked.
He's so great, isn't he?
He's so great. It's wonderful. And Strout isn't in Maine now. That's where she typically sets her stories. Now we're in Massachusetts.
Yes. We're here with Artie, and oh my gosh, there are so many different little paths here in his story, but essentially it's really this heartrending story. Here he is at, middle age, this man who is kind of struggling with a loneliness that he just can't quite resolve, I guess, if you can resolve loneliness. He just has this melancholy about him, and he's such a likable fellow. You get to know him, and thanks to Petkoff, you follow him, you follow Artie through his life, and you're just kind of like, oh, I know this fellow, I like him, and he's just really struggling with feeling isolated and just kind of separated from those around him. And so when there's a revelation that occurs, you really want to know, like, how is he going to take this? What's going to happen? And it's a really thought-provoking, I think, audiobook. And Petkoff just kind of, he's always a strong narrator, but I also feel like he knows when to step out of the way and just perform and not try to show us how to feel. And I think he does that here.
Yeah, and it's a pretty big cast of characters. Artie is a high school history teacher. So we have not only his family and his friends and his neighbors, but we have high school students, other teachers, and parents of some of his students. And I think Petkoff does it all brilliantly. And God, Elizabeth Strout is so good at giving us pictures of the daily life of communities. She is like master of the quotidian.
That is so true. You're right also about how Petkoff portrays the different characters in a yes, we have a whole town full of people. My favorite parts, I have to say, were I thought he captured Artie's students perfectly. He
Mhm.
he sounded like them. He delivered, their words and thoughts in just such a great way. I just thought it was wonderful. And yeah, I don't feel like he misses a beat, especially like with dialogue and the development of different characters. I just think he does a fantastic job.
I loved this book. I could not stop listening to it. Elizabeth Strout has such an ability to uncover emotional complexity in what would appear to be an ordinary life. And
Yes,
I think Robert Petkoff understands exactly how much or how little to do to let those moments just land.
I agree. I think it's a perfect pairing. He does a great job with the character and with the audiobook as a whole.
And I think he was especially impressive in the way he conveys Artie's vulnerability. He lets us feel the character's uncertainty and loneliness without ever tipping into sentimentality.
Absolutely. He still has these, he holds on to Artie's personality even when,
Yep.
there are twists and turns. It's like, wait, what just happened? Like you feel like, okay, I've known Artie as this steady rolling fella, and I think that Petkoff stays true to that throughout. It's a really consistent performance.
Yeah, and a wonderful book. I loved this book. I mean, I can't praise it too much. There's just so much about it that is wonderful. If people are familiar with Elizabeth Strout, she moves through time in a book as well. Sometimes it's the past, but then she'll suddenly be talking about the future very suddenly, but in a way that is rather seamless. You'll have a line that says, and at so and so's funeral, this will happen, and this will happen, and this will happen. And she's projecting years down the road, but it creates this continuum of community and connection that is just stunning.
It is, and it's such an interesting way to bring the reader into the story and move the story forward.
Yeah.
It never fails to surprise me when it happens in her work, but I do enjoy it.
Should we hear a little?
Sure, absolutely. We have a little sample here of, I think, Petkov's wonderful way with dialogue. In this scene, our friend Artie is returning home after dinner with his friend Flossie. And so he's kind of having a little debrief with his wife about the evening. So as you were saying, the way that Strout can say a lot in simple moments, I feel like you definitely get a sense of that in this little clip.
This is The Things We Never Say by Elizabeth Strout, read by Robert Petkoff.
Artie's wife Evie had never cared for Flossie, saying that she was too much. And Artie understood, but he loved Flossie for it. He loved her overly made-up face, her too yellow hair piled on top of her head, the scent of perfume that followed her everywhere, the delicate way she would sit her large body down after waving to him enthusiastically when she came through the heavy wooden door at Spud's. He loved her, but he was not remotely in love with her. It was that he could be himself with her. He realized this only later. "How is poor old Flossie?" Evie had asked Artie that night. She was sitting in the living room with a newspaper on her lap, and she looked up at him as he walked into the room. Evie was one of the few people Artie knew who still read a real newspaper. "She misses Reginald," Artie said, sitting down in a chair across from her. "She says it every time."
It's a wonderful description of Flossie,
It
and it
is.
gives real insight into Artie, too. He just loves her.
Right.
Not in love, he just loves her. He loves who you love. He loves her. Petkoff finds the emotional center of Artie without ever underlining it. His performance is so compassionate, but it never feels manipulative rather, or maudlin at all.
No, no, I feel like we're just riding along, at his shoulder as he's, making his way through life and kind of seeing what he sees. And yeah, we're really not being told how to feel about things. We're just kind of seeing them through Artie's eyes. And it really is an enjoyable experience in this audiobook.
And now we're moving to American Fantasy by Emma Straub, and that's read by Marin Ireland.
Yes, it is. So this one's interesting. This one's a little bit of a departure from our other two, but I still feel like we have some kind of serious, like human, emotional shifts kind of at work, just as in the other two. So American Fantasy is actually the name of a cruise ship. And this audiobook follows three of the central characters who are on board this ship. It steps into each point of view as they embark on what is known as a boy band nostalgia cruise. So we have a boy band, now they're older, and the cruise itself is catering to their now, older fans, and they're all going away on the cruise together for this, nostalgic series of concerts and meet and greets and that sort of a thing. And Marin Ireland is always, I think, wonderful as a narrator, but she does all three points of view as the 4-day cruise goes by.
I think she did something really impressive with the cast that easily could have felt like caricatures. She found the humanity in each of them.
She did.
Especially when they were behaving in ways that were, a little over the top.
Absolutely. I think that's absolutely true. I think it was a really good plan to have just Ireland as the narrator. There was no need to shift different voices. I thought she did a great job of, yes, highlighting their humanity, even when, it's kind of like, well, do I like this character? Do I even know this character very well? She brings them to life, I think.
I enjoyed the writing. I thought it was a pleasant ride, but at the end, I found myself wondering, where exactly did we go?
I felt the same thing.
Is there a there?
Yes, I felt that about halfway through. I thought, but okay, what's happening? When are we going to have? I don't know what I was looking for, but this was.
But it wasn't meaty.
Exactly.
There was nothing to chew on, and it's not that books can't be light and pleasant. They still give you something gratifying that you can hold on to.
Exactly. I kept thinking about that kind of along the lines of the whole cruise ship thing. I felt like this is just kind of a cruise out and around and back again. And I'm not really sure, there are moments of introspection from some of the characters, but I felt like, for the most part, it was just kind of a little distraction. It wasn't really a book that I got into as deeply as the other two.
It felt like a cruise. The book felt like a cruise.
Yes.
Okay. You sail around and you go back. All right. And I do think this is one of those books where it really would work better in audio because of what Marin Ireland brings to it.
I agree with that too. I think she does a great job.
I'm not sure I could have gotten through it if I was reading it in print.
I agree with that just because she does. She infuses it with some personality and life that I really didn't get a sense of on their own, with the characters. I kept thinking like, okay, just when I thought, oh, I think I understand this person, then something really uncharacteristic would happen that I couldn't quite reconcile. And I'm like, But thanks to Marin Ireland, she just kept it all going. And it's just enjoyable to hear her delivery. She's got a great pace. Her tone is always just so easy to listen to. And it was fine overall.
Yeah. It was a perfectly nice trip. I'm not sure where we went, but it was a perfectly nice trip. Should we hear a little? We can hear Marin's wonderful narration because she is wonderful.
Yes. So here is a clip from Sarah's point of view as she prepares for this cruise weekend.
This is American Fantasy by Emma Straub, read by Marin Ireland.
Turnaround day was impressive. The crew corralled 2,000 people and their luggage off the ship, cleaned every room, restocked the vast stores of food and alcohol, refueled the whale-size fuel tanks, mended anything broken, and then opened the doors to let 2,000 different people and their oversized suitcases aboard, all within the span of half a day. Sarah and her production team had to worry about their changeover too, but their charges were the entertainers, the talent. Getting a few hungover 60-year-olds and their guitar techs back onto dry land and welcoming a new group aboard was easy. She didn't have to wheel anything heavy down a ramp. Sarah just had to make sure no one she was responsible for jumped. It was hard to fall off a cruise ship by accident.
I think Sarah was my favorite character, actually.
I do too. I just feel like she was the most believable in many ways. She's
Yeah.
just trying to get her job done. There were comical moments between her and one of the other employees. I just thought she was very down to earth.
Yeah. I kept thinking how easy Marin Ireland makes this kind of narration sound. Her performance always feels so effortless, but there is a tremendous amount of control underneath.
And no matter whether she's, just going through the exposition of a moment or she's getting into dialogue, she's always just like measured and steady rolling no matter what she's doing. And her voice is just so nice to listen to. I feel like she does an excellent job no matter what she's doing.
Yeah, I agree. Good week, Leslie.
It was a great week, some really good listening, and thank you for chatting about these 3 titles.
I thought it was a really nice grouping. And I will talk to you next month.
I look forward to it.
Me too. You've been listening to Behind the Mic with Kirkus Reviews. Behind the Mic drops on Thursdays. Follow us, and we just appear in your feed like magic. And while you're at it, follow Fully Booked by Kirkus Reviews. Fully Booked is the podcast for book lovers. Every Tuesday, host Megan LaBreeze brings you author interviews, industry insights, and recommendations from the bestseller list. Find your next great book on Fully Booked by Kirkus Reviews. You can follow Fully Booked and Behind the Mic on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Audible, or wherever you get your podcasts. And then stop by kirkusreviews.com to check out reviews for both print and audiobooks. Behind the Mic is produced by Jessica Lockhart. Michelle Cobb, Stephen Cummings, Leslie Fine, Alan Minskoff, Alex Ritchie, Laura Rossi, Laura Simeon, and Kendra Winchester are our contributors. Jennifer Dahl is our editor with assistance from Alicia Langerman, and Tom Beer is the executive producer. The music is William Ross Chernoff's Nomads 4-Way, and I'm your host, Joe Reed. Good listening.